I am going to show you something before I explain anything at all. This item is sitting in your kitchen right now under your sink. You have used it to wash dishes, maybe used it to scrub a pot. You have never once thought about putting it on a hook. By the end of this video, you will never look at it the same way again because the specific way you cut it changes everything about how it works. The cut is not a minor detail, it is the entire mechanism. Terry Kwan fished a Mississippi tournament circuit in 2001. He had been fishing competitively for 9 years with average results, the kind of angler who finishes in the top half but rarely contends. He started experimenting with this item in the off-season after a conversation with a retired guide from the Gulf Coast who had used a version of it during the 1980s. The guide told Terry the technique had been common knowledge in certain Gulf Coast fishing circles until the commercial bait industry arrived in force and made the idea feel outdated by comparison. Not outdated because it had stopped working, because it had not. Outdated because the marketing was newer and the packaging was nicer. Terry refined the cut over 2 seasons of weekend testing on public water before he brought it into competitive fishing that season. And the director called him in after his 3rd consecutive win. Terry showed the director exactly what was on his hook. The director called 2 other organizers. They examined it for about an hour, and they added it to the restricted materials list before the next event. The band cited the preparation as providing an unfair advantage over conventional natural bait in controlled competition conditions. Terry told me the ban did not bother him much because he fished tournaments to test ideas, not for the money, and this idea had tested well enough. He still uses it every weekend on public water in Mississippi where there are no restrictions of any kind on the technique. Now I am going to tell you what it is, because the suspense is not the point. The point is the cut and the chemistry, and exactly why the combination works. A plain, unscented kitchen sponge, the rectangular yellow kind that costs less than $1 at any grocery store. Not the scrubbing side, not the foam with soap already built into it. Plain, dry, unscented cellulose sponge, no additives, no fragrance. Here is why most people who try this get mediocre results. They cut it into random small pieces and stick it on a hook. That produces some result, but it is a fraction of what a proper cut delivers. The specific cut Terry settled on after 2 seasons of testing is this. Cut the sponge into a rectangular piece, roughly 2 centimeters wide and 4 centimeters long, about the size of a thick piece of gum. Then cut a shallow V-notch into one of the short ends, about ½ a centimeter deep on each side of center. That V-notch creates 2 soft tapered points at the end of the piece. When the sponge moves through the water, those 2 points flex independently, each one moving in a slightly different direction from the other. That irregular bilateral movement at the tip of the piece is the motion signature of an aquatic larva, not a piece of foam. A larva moving through the water does not move uniformly. It flexes unevenly, one side slightly leading the other, constantly adjusting. The V-notch produces exactly that asymmetry on a small scale. Here is the second reason the V-notch matters, and this one is chemistry. A flat-cut edge compresses tightly against itself when pressure is applied. When the piece is threaded onto a hook and retrieved through the water, the flat end seals under pressure and releases compound in short pulses. The V-notch creates 2 open channels that stay open during the retrieve. Compound loaded into the sponge cells near the V-notch flows continuously out of those channels as long as the piece is moving. That continuous release rather than pulse release is what produces the sustained scent trail that keeps fish oriented toward the bait through the full length of any retrieve on any water. Without the V-notch, you get a piece that releases scent only intermittently. With it, you get a sustained trail that runs from the first cast to the last. Terry said the difference in response rate between the flat cut and the V-notch advantage was clear in the first session. He ran both rods. Both rods, same water, same hook, same attractant. The V-notch rod produced responses consistently enough in that first session that he never went back to the flat cut for the rest of his fishing life. Before I get into the attractant recipe and the hook setup, scan the QR code in the top left corner of your screen or click the first link waiting in the description below. The Forbidden Baits add-on inside the Angler's Vault has 10 legal recipes, methods that cost almost nothing and routinely outperform commercial products. Stay here, because the attractant treatment is what turns this from effective into something that Terry described as almost unfair on the water. Here is the attractant recipe, and it costs about $1 to make. 1 tablespoon of fish sauce, the kind from any grocery store. 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, not garlic salt, plain garlic powder. 2 tablespoons of warm water, not hot, just warm to the touch. Mix those 3 things together in a small container with a lid. Place your cut sponge pieces in the mixture and press them down. Let them soak for a minimum of 30 minutes before your trip. The open cell structure of the sponge absorbs this mixture internally, not just on the surface the way a coated lure would. When the sponge compresses and expands during the retrieve, it pushes fresh compound out of those internal cells into the water. Fish sauce provides the free amino acid signal that largemouth and catfish associate with injured or decomposing prey in the water. Garlic powder provides the elastin sulfur compounds that produce a secondary chemical signal matching fermented fish tissue. Both compounds together create a broader detection trigger than either one alone, and both release continuously through the V-notch as long as the piece is in motion during the retrieve. Now the hook setup, because the positioning changes the movement profile. Thread the hook through the long axis of the rectangular piece, entering through one of the flat long faces and exiting through the other. Do not thread through the narrow edge that compresses the piece too tightly and reduces the expansion movement that produces the larva signature. The hook point should exit roughly 1 centimeter from the V-notch end, leaving the 2 notch points free to flex independently in the water. That free flex at the tip is the visual trigger and must stay unrestricted. Set the hook eye flush against the flat surface where it entered the piece. No gap between the eye and the sponge on the entry side. This keeps the piece from sliding up the shank during the retrieve. For depth, this setup works best between 2 feet and 8 feet of water. Below 8 feet, the V-notch movement becomes less pronounced as water pressure at depth slightly limits the flex range of the points. Above 2 feet in very shallow water, the piece moves well, but surface disturbance from the retrieve can scatter the scent trail before it reaches fish holding in the shallower water column. 2 to 8 feet is the productive range for most freshwater situations. For the retrieve, use a slow, steady pace with no pauses. The compression-expansion cycle of the sponge requires continuous movement. A pause removes the pumping action that drives compound out of the channels. Keep it moving at a pace slow enough that you can feel slight resistance from the water pushing against the flat face of the piece on each pull. That resistance is the piece compressing and releasing on each pull stroke. Reapply attractant every 30 to 40 minutes by squeezing the piece in your small container of the fish sauce and garlic mixture. The cells reload in under a minute, and the piece returns to full potency. Now, the question most people ask at this point is why bait shops and tournament organizers treated this as a threat rather than just another technique. The answer is straightforward. It is simply too consistent. A natural bait on a hook degrades in 15 to 20 minutes on the water. The scent profile weakens, the texture softens, the movement becomes passive. Most anglers compensate by changing bait frequently, which means more trips to the bait bucket, more time off the water, and a changing variable in what the fish are actually responding to across the session. This piece is as effective on cast 40 as it was on cast 1, as long as you reload it on schedule, and the reload takes 60 seconds. That consistency over a full fishing session is what natural bait cannot match, and what tournament organizers cannot build a fair structure around. Bait manufacturers understood the same thing when this started spreading. If an angler can produce a more effective presentation for $1 using items already in their kitchen, the reason to purchase prepared bait at 2 to 3 times that cost becomes very difficult to justify. The technique did not disappear because it stopped working. It disappeared because the industry that replaced it had better distribution, a larger marketing budget, and a retail counter. In recreational fishing across all 50 states, there are no restrictions. Terry Kwan uses it every weekend in Mississippi on public water without any issue, without restriction, and consistent results on every trip. If you want 10 more methods at this same cost level, the Forbidden Baits add-on inside the Angler's Vault has the full list. Catfish Killer Dough, the Ivory Soap Trick, Bacon Grease Dip, and 7 more. Scan the QR code in the top left corner of your screen or click the first link waiting in the description below. The complete system is waiting inside the Angler's Vault.